This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Welcome to the Reimagine India Hour, and it's brought to you by Visa. In the hour every Monday and Wednesday, we connect with the stalwarts and change makers of the country from various walks of life who are reimagining India through their initiatives. An India that is transforming public places with street art, increasing green cover with vertical gardens, celebrating festivals without noise. An India where we can promise our children a better future. And I'm pleased to welcome a captain of the industry who's just decided he has to give back, and that is Chandramouli Venkatesan. He's written this incredible book called Catalyse, The Ultimate Strategies on How to Win at Work and in Life. And I tell you, I had a cover-to-cover read, and I have to say that it's transformed a large part of my thinking. He's currently CEO of Special Projects at Pidilite. What's up? How are you?
Very good, Rishi. All good today.
Yeah. First and foremost, for the uninitiated, just the concept of catalyst. Was chemistry your favorite subject in school?
Yeah. Incidentally, I was a chemical engineer before I became a manager.
That explains it. Yeah.
And this is the only time in my life I've used chemical engineering. Used it to name the book.
Very good. Yeah. So just the concept of it, catalyst. What is it all about for people who haven't read the book?
Yeah. I think the basic concept is what I've observed is Indians are trying to succeed. I mean, we are a very hungry population. We want to succeed. Yeah. But often we don't do the right things in trying to succeed. And the objective of catalyst is a catalyst, something which accelerates your progress. We are all trying to succeed. The objective of this book is how can it accelerate your process of success. So the mission is helping people succeed. And what I've observed about careers of people is the phrase, you get what you deserve. Yeah. Now in careers, people seem to chase the getting part of it, which is how can I get more. What I have noticed is you get more if you focus on deserving more. So on the you get what you deserve, if you focus on deserving more, you will get more. And that's a simple philosophy I like to propound.
Now, you've coined a phrase called the experience algorithm, which to me is of tremendous interest. Explain what the experience algorithm is how people can add to that experience algorithm.
Yeah. I think the context is the most important thing towards your success is experience. How do you build up experience? I build time. So I say that if I worked for 25 years, then I have 25 years experience. That notion is wrong. Somebody can work for 25 years and get 10 years experience, and somebody can work for 25 years and get 40 years experience. Time is only the input into the process of building experience. Experience is the output. So what we need is a model of converting the time we spend at work into valuable experience. And that is a learning model. And we don't focus enough on improving our learning model. If we improved our learning model, then we will convert the time we spend at work much more efficiently into experience. Otherwise, we spend a lot of time, but we don't gain experience.
And Molly, you are a proponent of the fact that individual growth eventually translates into professional growth. I think people are obsessing too much in this day and age about professional growth. Yeah. And it is not the other way around, which is professional growth that leads to individual growth. But it's actually, if you concentrate on your own skills, you will add to company skills. Am I right?
Absolutely. So here is the thing to say, suppose your aspiration is you want to become a chairman of a big company. Now, you're not going to become the chairman of a big company being what you are today. It means you have to grow from what you are today and bridge the gap to what it takes to be a chairman of the company. And what is in your hands and what is in my hand is our ability to grow ourselves. If we focus on what I call real individual growth, which is how do you grow your capability, your skills, your judgment, your communication, your leadership. If you choose to grow these things, automatically career growth and success follows.
Absolutely. Up ahead, we're going to talk about identifying the right bosses to work under. Though, they always say that your family and your bosses you can't choose. But Molly has a theory on maybe you joining the company which has the right bosses, and doing some kind of planning in that platform. For those of you who've just tuned in, we're live on radio sets in Mumbai City 94.3 on the FM band. We're streaming live audio across the nation online on www.onecast.in. That's numeral 1cast.in. If you're not in Mumbai City or you want to tell people who are not in Mumbai City. And of course, we're streaming video live on facebook.com/radio1.mum, radio1.mum. Only if you're not driving. If you're in the backseat of a chauffeur-driven car or in the backseat of a radio taxi, you don't have a radio set at home or at the office. We're going to be back with the Bee Gees, and you should be dancing and more Molly after that. Chandramouli Venkatesan is my guest of the day.
Hashtag Reimagine India with Hrishi K. Brought to you by Visa. You reimagine India, Visa reimagines payments.
You should be dancing by the Bee Gees on the Reimagine India Hour. Chandramouli Venkatesan, CEO of Special Projects at Pidilite, is in studio. The reason he's in studio is Catalyst, the ultimate strategies on how to win at work and life, is out. And up ahead, he's going to tell us how he reimagines India. Absolutely live at 9:08 on 94.3 Radio 1 on your radio sets. Streaming live audio online, www.onecast.in, numeral 1cast.in, and now Facebook Live, only if you're not driving, on facebook.com/HRISHIKAY. That's HRISHIKAY on Facebook. More conversation.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Rishi K.
So come on now, tell us about this TMRR. A wonderful theory of yours. Actually, in all fairness, you start with the theory of TMR and then you add another R onto it. And I will not tell it as excitingly as you would tell it.
Yeah. No, so as we were discussing, you got to figure out how to convert your time to experience. It doesn't happen by itself. And the catalyst for converting time to experience is TMRR. Target, measure, review, and reflect. And for every hour you spend at work, if you do these things, target, measure, review, and reflect, you will convert time to experience. And as you said, the fourth hour which I added, reflection, is the most important hour. And Rishi, for example, you're doing a radio show today. Yeah. At the end of this radio show, I'm asking you to reflect using the question, what could I have done better? When you ask that question to yourself, your tomorrow's radio show will be better than today. If you don't reflect on today's radio show, on what you could have done better, then tomorrow's radio show will be equal to today's radio show. Today's radio show could be very good, but the purpose of experience is to make you better every day. Every day you spend at work where you don't become better tomorrow is a day wasted. Yeah. And the only way you become better tomorrow is if you reflect on today to say, what could I have done better?
Let's look at it from a marathon runner's perspective, which is an example that you quote in your book. So you're saying a target for a marathon runner would be the best time that he wants to achieve in the marathon. His measurement would be, how he goes up or how he's faring currently. What would the R and the R be? Would it be, hey, I'm going slower on this particular incline, so I have to work on my strength or calf building on inclines and then therein reflect on it? Would that be correct?
Yeah. And I think just to change the context, I talk of the Olympics walking person, not the running person. And I think the context for me is you and me, when we walk, we don't think walking is an experience for us. But if you're an Olympic athlete who is participating in a 50-kilometer walking race, the Olympic athlete figures out how to even convert walking into an experience. Yeah. And the way that person converts walking into an experience is TMRR. So the person says there's a 50-kilometer walking race. I got to do it in 3 hours 40 minutes. So that's a target. The measurement is what did I actually do? I did 3 hours 44 minutes. The review is the why. So person figures out the reason I was 4 minutes slower is because in the uphill section, my stride length was not good enough. I have to lengthen my stride. To lengthen my stride, I have to strengthen my hamstring muscles. Yeah. And that's the review process. Yeah. So that's the model of where even something like walking, which you and me do in a mechanical way, if you did it in a conscious way with TMRR, you can even convert walking into an experience. Every day you walk, you can become better than the way you walked yesterday.
Mauli, I'm going to come back to my thought about how you can never choose your family, your blood brothers, and you can never choose your bosses. But you say you can be smart about that. And pray, how so? Tell us.
Yeah. No, and as you rightly said, the only two things you can't choose in your life are your family and your boss. And as an aside, I like to say, everything else you are unhappy about is a choice you have made. Never forget that. Yeah. But the fact is, even if you can't choose a boss, the fact remains that a boss is very important for your success. The boss in your foundational years, the first 10 to 20 years of your career, the bosses you have a tremendous impact on how successful you're going to be in the longer term. Yeah. And what a good boss does is a good boss sets the benchmark of what is good in your head. We can't set that benchmark ourselves. We do something, somebody else tells us it's not good enough. And we constantly readjust that benchmark of what is good. And a good boss sets that benchmark, yeah, and teaches us how to get there. So a good boss is vital in your career. Now the challenge is you don't choose your boss. So there is something which is very important for you to be successful which you don't choose. How do you resolve that situation? And there are three ways you can kind of solve that situation which is still in your influence. First is, like you want a good boss is looking for a good subordinate. So the best way of getting a good boss is to become a good subordinate. Then good bosses find you and take you into your team. So focus on being a good subordinate is the first path. Yeah. The second path is, there are some companies where more bosses are good bosses. Yeah, and there are some companies where fewer bosses are good bosses. And if you make a choice in your career on which companies to work in, based on your assessment of what is the percentage of good bosses there, then you are increasing your probability of getting a good boss. Yeah. And the third pathway to a good boss is, sometimes by good luck, you end up with a good boss. Yeah. And if you end up with a good boss, you must try and prolong your time with that boss. I myself done it, I must say. I've worked with two bosses for close to 20 years of my life. And I've continuously made choices of trying to lengthen my time with those bosses.
I'm going to actually ask him who those bosses are later on. But, he's been honest enough to talk about them even in the book. Okay, you're not going to hear us for less than 10 minutes because we're going into a song and then some messages. You know that after every two talk sections, we go into messages. You have any questions for Chandramouli Venkateshan? You have any comments on this interview? Feel free to let me know and I will read them out on air live as we speak. So one space your question or one space your comment, space your name. Type it in, send it to 53650. 53650 is the in-studio SMS line. On Twitter as well as Facebook, you go to the search bar, you type HRISHIKAY. I will pop up, you tweet out your question or comment along with your name, you post on the timeline inbox on Facebook along with your name and facebook.com/radio1.mum, our official page. There again, a question or comment for Chandramouli Venkateshan along with your name on the timeline inbox and I will bring it up on the show. The man who's worked with Asian Paints, Mondelez, which is Cadbury, Merck Electronics, Unida, Pidilite, and he's also had a cross-functional stint in HR. Chandramouli Venkateshan, we're going to be back with him. Here's George Michael, Too Funky, going into some messages. 9:15, I'm Hrishi K.
Hashtag Reimagine India with Rishi K. Brought to you by Visa. You reimagine India, Visa reimagines payments.
Enrique Iglesias, Sean Paul, it's Bailando, 9:29. Chandramouli Venkateshan on the Reimagine India Hour. Talking to me about Catalyst and his extensive life in corporate India, the ultimate strategies on how to win at work and in life. Streaming video live only if you're not driving on Instagram at HRISHIKAY. We've also tagged Moli. And audio online across the nation on www.onecast.in, numeral1cast.in. And of course, on your radio sets, 94.3 on the FM band.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Now let's get into some career management. You talk about something known as a learning cycle, and you say that learning cycle should not be interrupted. People turn around and say, I have to see the product through from inception till the end. Maybe I'll start work on one product and go to another organization and work on another product. And you disagree with that. Talk to me about learning cycles.
Yeah. So what's a learning cycle, Rishi? Suppose you're doing a new product launch. From the time you start developing the product to the time you launch it in the market and getting feedback is a full learning cycle. Now, if you see the learning cycle end to end in one place, When you are in the market for a launch, you get to understand what you did wrong or right even at the stage when you developed the product. But if you don't see it end to end, in one place you develop the product, but you go to another place and launch a product, you are not able to assess what you did right or wrong in the development of the product. So in any learning cycle, if you have to get the full experience, you have to see it end to end. 2 half learning cycles is not equal to one full learning cycle. And that's a very important part of career management.
Also, in terms of career management, you've actually said when you're at the point in your life, whether you're thinking of quitting a company and joining another company, both are not interrelated. Everybody thinks, oh, I've got to have a job in hand before I say bye-bye to this job. You say you don't necessarily even need to quit your job, but make up your mind first and build a table as to when you will quit and when you will join. Now, I said to you offline when we were having a telephone conversation yesterday saying, my dad worked 4 decades at L&T and retired, because that's the way it was in the past. And these days, if you spend too much time in a particular company and your CV says, 8 years in one company, millennials turn around and say, did manage to get another job? So the philosophy seems to have changed. But you do believe in spending a considerable amount of time as long as your learning cycle is getting completed at one place. So talk to me about quitting, joining, all of that.
Yeah. No, so firstly, I don't say don't quit. Yeah. All I say is you must have a valid reason to quit. A lot of us quit not because we have a valid reason to quit, but because we get an opportunity from somewhere. So the trigger to quit is actually not a quit trigger, but it is a join trigger. My advocacy is separate the quit and the join decision. You must have a reason to quit, and that reason to quit should not be that I found something else. So do you have a valid reason to quit? And there are only 2 reasons we should consider for quitting. One is either your learning has stopped, you're no longer learning in the place that you are in today, or you are experiencing some kind of a personal fit challenge in terms of values, culture, beliefs, etc. If these 2 reasons are there, it's fine to quit. But if you don't have a reason to quit, but just because you found something else you quit, that cycle is what trips people up and it goes wrong. So that's the primary advocacy I put.
Okay, we've got a question now, and your last 4 digits are 3121 on the SMS line. It's Puneet. Molly, what were your failures? What did you learn from them?
Yeah.
Molly.
Actually, it's a great segue to the previous question, which was quitting and joining. And one of the poor decisions I made in my life was to quit the first company I worked in, which was Asian Paints. I worked there for close to 10 years, and I quit. And I was in an absolute peak learning cycle. I was learning like crazy. I had a fantastic personal fit with the company. The values and the culture of the company were perfect fit for me. But I ended up getting another job which was paying me 5 lakh of rupees more, and I got highly tempted by that salary, and I quit. And it was very clear to me in a matter of 2 or 3 months that it was a failure, it was a poor decision I made. And I interrupted a very powerful learning cycle and a great fit. So the learning for me was then to, understand when to quit and when to join. And it's actually inspired a full chapter in the book, because I find a lot of people make the same mistake that I have made.
Lovely learning from experience there. Chandramouli Venkatesan back on the Reimagine India Hour right after this song. It's Niall Horan on the loose. 9:33. I'm Hrishi K.
Hashtag Reimagine India with Rishi K. Brought to you by Visa. You reimagine India. Visa reimagines payments.
On the loose on the Reimagine India Hour with Chandramouli Venkatesan, the man who's authored Catalyst, CEO of Special Projects at Pidilite, an extensive career with Asian Paints, Cadbury Mondelez, Merck Electronics Oneida, and now Pidilite, in between an HR role too. And that's what we're going to talk about now.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
So, it cannot be mistaken that people have extensive careers. All of us work for an average of 40 years, God willing. But you think that you can actually segregate your career into 2 parts, which is the first half of your career and the second half of your career. And your second half, to you, is more important. And a lot of people don't realize that. They look for, quick results, quick fix results. And you use anecdotes and stories to talk about that. So talk us through that, yeah?
Another story I like, Rishi, is the hare and the tortoise story, which you all heard. The race between the rabbit and the tortoise, which the tortoise wins by being slow and steady. And the moral of the story is slow and steady wins the race. and I ask young people, would you like that as a moral of your careers? And they normally don't like the word slow. They say, slow doesn't work for careers. I also don't advocate that you be a tortoise in your career, but I certainly advocate don't try and be the rabbit in your career. A 40-year career cannot be won in the first 5 years.
Correct.
And in any career, if you see careers of people and you study it after 40 years, you find that bulk of their success has come in the second half of their careers. Here is what I have observed, Rishi. Most people succeed in the first half of their careers. Very few succeed in the second half of their careers. And sometimes I like to say it provocatively, even idiots succeed in the first half of their careers. Even good people fail in the second half of their careers. Hence, if you want to win in your career, you got to figure out how are you going to win in the second half. How are you going to be the person who reaches the finish line? Are you the tortoise or the rabbit who reaches the finish line?
Beautifully put. Also, I love the fact that when you talk about life as a catalyst, you give Albert Einstein's example and his violin playing. So talk me through that. And there are lots of interesting formulae here, ladies and gentlemen. As leadership equals position and content into values. Leadership is what he calls a VML equation. So a bit of your chemical engineering coming back there. So life as a catalyst, starting with the Albert Einstein theory. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the context is we keep talking of work-life balance, and it's like a one-way street. The traffic flows in only one way, which is we keep analyzing what's the impact of work on our life. My belief is the impact of work on life is much lesser than the impact of life on work. And if we choose to live our life in a certain way, we'll be more successful at work. And one of the great anecdotes of that is from Albert Einstein's life, whom we know was a great physicist and a scientist. He goes on to say in his biography that he believes he was a great scientist because he was a passionate violin player. So something he did in his life, which was playing the violin, helped him be a great scientist. And to give an analogy that you and me would relate to be successful at work, we have to be great team players. Now imagine somebody who's played a lot of team sports in their life. They've learned some teaming skills which helps them in their work. This doesn't mean you can't be a great team player if you haven't played the sport. But I'm just giving you an example of what you do at life, how does it impact what you do at work. And if we can design our life to be a catalyst for success at work, it can actually be the greatest catalyst for success at work.
Very beautifully put. We're streaming video live on Periscope and Twitter now at HRISHIKAY. So HRISHIKAY, only if you're not driving, statutory warning. We've also tagged Chandramouli Venkateshan. Audio is still being streamed online, live across the nation. www.onecast.in, numeral 1cast.in, and 94.3 on the FM band on your radio sets. Now, I'm going to come back to that boss's also mentors, because a lot of freelancers will turn around and say, I don't have a boss. And in startup India, a mentor is what you would term a boss. And you do talk about, Bharat Puri at HDFC, Anand Kripalu, these wonderful men, and, examples that we can learn from them.
Yeah. Now, I think mentors are crucial in your lives. Yeah. And first is getting to the right mentor. And a mentor is different from a career counselor. Far too often we confuse a career counselor with a mentor. I can give advice to anybody, but I'm a career counselor. But if I know them personally, and if I'm deeply vested in their success, then I become a mentor. And these are two different things. And hence one of the key things is to identify the right mentor who knows you well, who has no conflict of interest, and hence their only interest is your success. Yeah, and who provide a different view to your life and your career than what you can see. These are the crucial things to look for in a mentor, and cultivating a mentor is crucial to success, be it startup or be it steady life.
Lovely. A last leg of conversation up ahead. We're going to go into some messages and come back again. You won't hear us for less than 10 minutes. Keep yourself busy. One space your query, or one space your comment, space your name. Type it in, send it to 53650. 53650 is the in-studio SMS line. On Twitter as well as Facebook, you go to the search bar, you type HRISHIKAY. A blue tick mark verified Twitter handle and a verified Facebook page will pop up. You tweet out your comment or your question to Chandramouli Venkateshan. I'll bring it up on the show, or you post on the timeline inbox along with your name, and facebook.com/radio1.mum, our official page. There again, a comment or question on the timeline inbox along with your name, and I will read it out pronto. 9:42, messages and back. I'm Hrishi K.
94.3 Radio 1.
Roy Orbison, you got it. You got it. The Reimagine India Hour. Chandramouli Venkatesan in studio. Our last leg of conversation with the CEO of Special Projects at Pidilite. Catalyst, the book. The ultimate strategies on how to win at work and in life is in stores. Go get yourself a copy. A last leg of conversation.
This is Good Morning Mumbai with Hrishi K.
Let's do some questions. Malcolm Raphael, is there ever a good time or bad time to change track? There are people who switched careers or followed their passion late in life and did well. But there are also failures. What should be the driver for change?
Yeah. And I can use my own example, Rishi. I did HR for a brief while, as you mentioned. I think you got to be clear, why are you changing track? If you're changing track because you don't like what you're doing right now and you want to re-establish yourself somewhere else, the earlier you do it in your career, the better it is. Yeah. But if you're changing track because you want to gain a new experience which makes you a holistic leader, then you got to first establish yourself somewhere, build a core, and then change track. So I think the concept of changing track is linked to why you're doing it. If you become clear why you're doing it, the answer will come on whether you should do it early or late.
Pooja Punjabi, very interesting theory by Mauli. The Olympic athlete example was explained nicely. I'm curious to know what he did to be around two of his bosses for 20 years. What was so inspiring about both of them? Yeah, I gave you a cue to talk about Bharat Puri at HDFC and Anand Kripalu. Yeah. So you didn't speak. So now maybe.
Yeah. No, actually, the beauty of both Bharat and Anand, and as I set up earlier to say, the job of great bosses is to raise the standard for you and teach you how to get there. Both of them did it. But often what happens is, people have a confusion on what's a good boss. People often think a good boss is somebody who makes you feel nice. As I said, a good boss is somebody who teaches you and raises your standard. But you seldom get a package of people who are both able to raise your standard and yet excellent human beings. And I think the combination of Bharat and Anand that I got was this combination of people who are great teachers and yet great human beings, and that's why they're just remarkable people in my life. And in my dedication page of my book, I've got their name. This book is dedicated to my family, my friends, and to Bharat and Anand.
Okay, your last four digits are 3123. You haven't given your name. Great conversation, Hrishi K. Can you ask Mauli about his thoughts on why dedicated employees are sometimes mistaken as outlaws and become unpopular?
Yeah.
Employees as outlaws and become unpopular. That's an HR question.
Yeah. No, I think dedicated employees, I think the concept of dedication we tend to misunderstand as concept of staying long. I think dedication is about saying that what I am doing today, I am giving it 100%. You could stay long in a place, you could stay short in a place. But irrespective of that, if you are giving what you are doing today 100%, you are dedicated. And that's what is the right thing to do.
Hari Krishnan, good morning, Hrishi K. Mentor-mentee relationship excellently explained by Mauli. Good takeaways indeed from this particular interview. I'm really, really glad you're saying that. Sindhi Papad, wonderful Twitter handle, insightful interview. Mauli made some valid points about bosses and quitting the job. Anuj Gurwara, I love the TMRR concept, very useful. What advice on self-motivation versus procrastination would you have for those of us who are our own bosses, which is freelancers and individuals?
I think a fantastic question. I mean, when you have a boss in a company, then a boss often pulls you when you are not motivated. But when you're by yourself, you got to pull yourself, self-motivation. Again, giving my own example, I have a boss for a job, but for writing the book, I didn't have a boss. Yeah. And I think when you're self-motivated, you need a mission. You need a why on that piece. So I was writing a book because I want to make a difference to people. And once I have a mission, I can motivate myself. But if I don't have a mission and I try to write a book, then you hear stories of people writing books for 10 years and never getting there. So I think building a mission for your motivation is important.
Kedar Mendele, the same Mauli as in ex-Mondale is absolutely correct, brother. Okay, my final question. How would you reimagine India, Chandramouli Venkatesan?
Yeah. No, I'm passionate about India. I've chosen to lead a life of 50 years in India when I had many chances to go outside. And I chosen to live in India because I love this country and I'm an Indian at heart. And I think my reimagination of India, again, taking my example, is I'm writing this book with a mission of saying how do I make people more successful and how does that make India more successful? And I'm wishing that every Indian thinks that their job is not just about their own success, but they must make a difference to India. And my reimagination of India is an India where every Indian thinks they must make a difference to India.
Lovely. Chandramouli Venkateshan, thank you very much. And hope to see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you, Rishi. Really enjoyed it.
That's Molly. Some great ideas on how he would reimagine India, just like Visa is reimagining payments by offering various new ways to pay. Dip to pay with debit and credit cards, tap to pay with contactless cards, scan to pay with Bharat QR, or click to pay on e-commerce sites. Now, tell us how you want to reimagine India for the better and get a chance to win movie vouchers from Radio 1. All you have to do is get onto the SMS line, type 1 space how you would reimagine India, send it with your name to 53650. 53650 is the in-studio SMS line. On Twitter as well as Facebook, you type HRISHIKAY. I will pop up. You tweet out how you reimagine India. You hashtag reimagine India. Okay. And on Facebook, of course, you post on the timeline inbox. You could also tag at Visa IND, at Visa IND, and facebook.com/radio1.mum on the timeline inbox how you would reimagine India, and you could win movie vouchers from Radio 1. Messages and back, and now with the Senior Executive Vice President of NYFA, the New York Film Academy, a College of Visual and Performing Arts. David Klein is here.
Hashtag Reimagine India with Hrishi K. Brought to you by Visa. You reimagine India. Visa reimagines payments.
94.3 Radio 1.